All right, well, welcome everybody. This is Gary Wise with the Goodlife team, and I am here with Michael McClure, and we are about to get started with our awesome webinar today. We're going to talk all about going paperless and how you can do that. And to get started, I just wanted to introduce Michael McClure, who recently joined our team full-time. Michael McClure is our Chief Content Operator here, or Chief Content Officer, I'll go with. And he is going to be co-hosting with me today to really help explain what we do at the Goodlife team in order to be paperless and what all of our agents are doing and what that means as a competitive advantage. And so to get started, what I'd like to do is to hand the reins over to Michael so he can kind of talk to you guys about what you're going to learn today, and then kind of talk about also what is that go-to webinar control panel on the right side of your screen, and how do you use that? Michael McClure, are you there, buddy?
I am, Gary. Thank you so much for the introduction. I really appreciate it. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Excellent, excellent. Wanted to start by saying welcome back to Austin. I know you're up in Colorado recently, so we're delighted to have you back. And if you wouldn't mind, if you're joining us on the webinar, if you could just drop a comment in the chat to indicate that you can hear us okay, we'd really appreciate that, because we always want to know that our technology is working properly. So thank you in advance for doing that. And let me start by saying that we're just very excited about this webinar, and we're so thankful that you took time out of your busy schedule to be with us here today. We sincerely believe that the information we're going to share with you today is truly transformational for those who would seek to learn and apply the lessons that we'll be sharing with you here today. And what we're going to be talking about, we sort of summarize as living the your office anywhere lifestyle. More specifically, that means giving you more freedom in how you run your business, giving you more control in how you run your business, and ultimately changing your lifestyle. As one example of that, we estimate that going paperless can save you about 5 hours on every real estate transaction that you do. And for most agents, that equates to about a month of time saved every year. And we think that's really significant. And with those things said, Gary, who was just talking, Gary Wise, one of the co-founders of the Goodlife team, is going to show us some of the details on how this all works in today's webinar. And I want to point out that Gary and I are going to be sticking around as long as necessary to answer all of your questions following the presentation here today. And in fact, we did a webinar last week in which we had over 500 questions, which was just amazing, and we'd love to recreate that today if you're willing. And before I turn the control back over to Gary, let me tell you a little bit about him, his amazing wife, Christina, and the Goodlife team. They truly walk the walk and talk the talk when it comes to real estate and technology. Goodlife team is a full-service brokerage based in Austin, Texas, and they sell real estate full-time and have been doing so very successfully for many years. And because of how innovative Goodlife team is, they've been recognized by some amazing organizations and companies, and here are just a few examples. They were named by Inman News as the most innovative brokerage in North America in 2010. And they received that recognition primarily because of technology, and more specifically because of what they've been doing with mobile technology like iPad, which is what we're here to talk about today. Goodlife team has been recognized by Apple Computer, yes, that Apple Computer, as one of the most innovative businesses in any industry relating to their expert use of iPad. In fact, Apple now has shot 2 videos featuring Goodlife team, and Goodlife team is featured as a business case study on Apple.com. And Evernote, which is one of my personal favorite technology companies not named Apple, has recognized Christina as an Evernote ambassador to the real estate industry. And Christina and the Goodlife team were featured on the front page of the USA Today Money section last year as a business gone paperless. And I just co-authored something called the Swanepoel Technology Report, which is a book about leveraging technology in the real estate industry. And Christina, in fact, wrote the chapter on paperless transactions, as we considered Goodlife team to be the foremost experts on that topic in the entire real estate industry. And all that is to say that this isn't some flash-in-the-pan training we're talking about here. This is tangible, actionable, life-changing information that we're going to be sharing with you. In fact, Gary and the Goodlife team agents spent the last 3 years testing every conceivable combination of apps, technologies, workflows, and sequences of workflows to determine how to optimize the use of all this stuff within the real estate industry. An iPad for real estate, which is what we're here to talk about today, is the end result of all that work. And I could say a lot more, but I want to turn it back over to Gary because he's really the expert here, and he'll be leading us through all the training today. And so with that said, and before we get rolling, one request I would make of you is that you turn off your smartphone notifications and all your distractions so that you could focus on what it is we're going to be covering with you today. And also, just a reminder that we're going to be hanging around to answer all your questions at the end, so please stick around because a lot of the education happens in that part of the webinar. So without further ado, Gary, if you wouldn't mind coming back on and leading us, we would really appreciate it.
Absolutely, and thank you so much, Michael. I did just learn that GoToWebinar is having significant problems, so what I'd like to see from everybody on this webinar is that I've got my iPad showing right now. If you can see my iPad, give me a quick yes in the question section because I want to make sure. Okay, great. Thank you, Melinda and Rose and Sharon and Debbie and Henry and Jeff. Okay, great, because apparently, GoToWebinar is having such significant problems that nobody else can get on. So those who got on early are those who are getting special attention today because you're the only ones who are going to be seeing this. So let's get rolling. What I'd like to do is I'd like to find out from everybody because, like I said, this is my screen here, and I'm just swiping it back and forth. And what I want to do is I want to customize this a little bit for you today. So over in the question section, tell me if you end up working with more buyers or sellers. And what I will do is I will absolutely tailor this for you. So let me know. I'm seeing buyers. Ooh, lots of buyers so far. So just type in buyers or sellers there. I'm seeing a lot of people are like both. Well, we don't have time for that today, but let's do this. I'm seeing more buyers than sellers today. So, oh no, wow, we're seeing a big move on sellers, and sellers are going to win it today. So what we're going to do, I know, at the finish line. So we're going to work with sellers today, and we're going to have a 5-step listing appointment. And so what I'd love for you to do is get out your laptop if you're taking notes on that. Get out your notepad if you want to take notes on that, and let's take some notes, and let's take you through my iPad right here. We're going to take you through what a typical Goodlife team agent does during a 5-step listing appointment. All right, so like I said, if there are 5 steps in it, that means that we're going to talk about all 5. So what I'd love to see is just go ahead and on the left margin of your paper or in your notebook, however you're taking notes, go ahead and number 1 to 5. Because we'll talk about what that step is. We'll talk about the apps that you use in that step of the 5-step listing appointment. And then I'm actually going to take you through and show you how to do it. And then at the end of that training, what we're going to do is Michael is going to join me, and we are going to answer all of your questions. And so we'll have an in-depth Q&A session here. So one thing I invite you to do is as we go through this, I don't want you to forget your questions, so go ahead and type the question into the question section. And if you already have a question, you can type it there because we've got Shannon Musgrove here who's answering some questions, and she's here to help as well. And then Michael and I will answer any iPad for real estate questions that you might have at the end of this. So, if you've got questions, type them in there. If you don't have any yet, type them in as we go through so you don't forget. All right, with that, let's get started. Your 5-step 5-star listing appointment. How do you wow your clients these days? One thing Michael and I talk a lot about is, gosh, how do we compete in this ever-changing market? How do we get more listings, and how do we make our clients really understand how different we are? And how do we, essentially, at the end of the day, how do we walk out of those homes after listing appointments with signed listing agreements? I mean, isn't that what it's all about? That's what we're here to talk about, is like how do you make more money? How do you take care of more customers, and how do you generate more referrals? Well, with step number one, this is a really important step. A lot of people are like, what the heck is he talking about? But step number one is, write this down, it is understanding your client's concerns. All right, so as you have that, understanding your client's concerns. A lot of people say, on our team, they're like, I understand concerns, I get it. You can put back, just jot next to that, ask questions. And so to do that, what we do is we use this Evernote app. Okay, so next to that, go ahead and type or write Evernote, because that's the app we're going to talk about here. Now, what I can tell you is, before we started using the iPad, and back in the old days, several years ago, when I would go on a listing appointment, and certainly when I first got in the business, before I had sales training, what would happen is I would show up to a client's house. And as I showed up to the client's house, you ring the doorbell, you do all that stuff, you shake the hands, and then what happens is this, is normally the client takes over control of the listing appointment at that time. And what I've found and what I've learned through all of the sales training I've taken, and what we teach our agents, is we really, this is our listing appointment. This is our presentation. We need to take control of that. And the way we do this is, as you shake the hand, the client always asks this question. Michael, can you tell me, on your listing appointments, because I know you sell real estate as well, when you go to a listing appointment, you shake their hand, what is the first question they ask you?
How about I take you on a tour of the house?
Exactly. Would you like to see the house? Can I tour you through the home? Would you like a tour? And here's the thing. They ask that because they think that that's what you're there for, is to tour the home. And what happens is that, man, if we can take control, bam, right there at the beginning of the appointment, you will own the appointment. And so write this down. Instead of just going on the tour, what you do is you say, you know what? What I would like to do is I'd like to sit down at your dining room table with you first. And the reason I want to do that is because, as you'll recall from our conversation on the phone, I asked you a lot of questions. Well, I want to verify that all of that information is still accurate. And so as you sit down, another tip, I always recommend this, and it's for psychological reasons, and it's actually for practical reasons too, since you're using an iPad. You sit down next to them. Sit down, what did I say? Next to them. Don't sit across the table. Psychologically, what you do is, if you sit across the table from them, what happens is you divide yourself from them. What we teach our agents is sit down next to them, because what instantly happens there is, psychologically, for that customer, they now know that you are partners with them. Like, you guys are partners. There's no division between you. You're sitting next to them. And so as you see, by the way, I did this on purpose. I opened up Evernote, and I opened it up to our notebooks here. And the reason I did this earlier is I wanted to share with you, this is how we teach our agents to organize their notebooks and notebook stacks in Evernote. Now, some of you guys might be wondering, hey, what is this Evernote thing? Well, what Evernote is it is an electronic notebook. It basically lets you have absolutely every note that you would ever write. It lets you keep your clients' folders. So if you have buyers and sellers folders that you normally work with, it lets you keep that, and right here online. And here's what's amazing too, is that I was actually speaking at a conference, a real estate conference, not too long ago, and I got up, and I'm just kind of known as the paperless agent expert, because absolutely everything I do is on my iPad. That's just what I do, because I think it's such a powerful tool. So I stand up and I ask everybody. I said, raise your hand if you brought all of your clients' folders with you today. And nobody raises their hands, because so many people are still using paper, and you can't keep absolutely everything like that and update it on the fly. I said, well, I did because I have all of my clients in here, and what that does is it allows me to be more responsive to my clients and produce a better experience. And so as we go through this, let's get back to the listing appointment, and I'm going to go into my seller's notebook stack, and we're going to use my friend Robert Watson right down here. We're going to open up his listing folder. And so as you see this, what happens is what you're seeing is all of the notes that I would normally have in my red listing folder. So, just raise your hand. Just raise your hand wherever you are. Raise your hand in person and say, you know what? Yep, I'm one of those guys. I've got my blue folders for my buyers, and I've got my red folders for my sellers. And so, that's the way I used to operate. Well, this is a red folder, and it's just a notebook. And everything that I would normally have in that folder is right here on my iPad. And so, back to the listing appointment. We sit down, and I have my iPad, and I have my keyboard, and I sit next to my client or clients. And by the way, if I have two clients, I'll sit next to both of them. And, if we're at a table to where we all need to see, I want them to be able to see my iPad, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this initial consultation right here. And so as this opens up, what I want to show you is that what we did is we've created templates at the Goodlife team to help all of our agents be able to capture all of their clients' information very, very quickly. So literally, if I weren't on this webinar and I got a call from a prospective client, I could very quickly capture my template, create a new notebook for that client as you're going through the cursory formalities of a conversation, that kind of introduction. Hi, this is Gary Wise. Oh, hi, client Robert Watson. As I'm pulling this information, I want to make sure I capture everything that you say. So if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you some questions. So that's what I would do during the initial consultation. Well, during the listing appointment, during step one, instead of, as Michael said, touring the home, what I say is, you know what, I cannot wait to inspect your home with you. Listen to the language I'm using. I cannot wait to inspect your home with you, because guess what? I'm not going to go tour their house. What I want to do is I want it more professional, and I need to change their language so I can absolutely take control. Instead, I'd like to sit down and verify all of the information. And so I sit down next to them. And also what this does is it starts showing them the technology that we're using here on the iPad. And they're going to get used to the fact that I didn't bring a briefcase, I didn't bring a folder, I didn't bring a pen, I didn't bring paper, I didn't bring any of that. I brought my iPad. So we sit down, we start reviewing this information, and I'll go through it with them, and I say, Robert, thank you so much for having me here. I just wanted to verify all of this information because, what you said to me was very important. And I want you to know I listened and I heard, but I wanted to make sure as we sit here that I heard it in the manner that you wanted me to. So as we're going through this, I'll go through, and one thing, I'll just point out as an example, I'll say, Robert, last time we spoke, you thought your home was worth $500,000. Now, that was last month, and I know that you guys needed to get some things done personally before we had this appointment. Do you still think that your home is worth $500,000? It says, yeah, after everything we've seen, we really do. I say, okay, great. Also, I asked you to call your bank and verify. You thought you owe $227,000. Is that actually accurate? And they'll normally say, you know what, I actually have the statement right here, or I have the exact dollar amount. It's actually $223,000. I say, great. This is perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to document that right here as I've documented everything else, because we'll be coming back to that. He says, perfect. So we'll go through, and this normally takes maybe 10, maybe 15 minutes. But this is really about three things. Number one, I'm introducing them to the technology I'm using. Number two, I want them to know that I have actually heard them. And number three, this is where I create my first wow for my client. This is where they get wowed and say, wow, I've never heard anybody listen to me quite like that. And yep, you got it all. I say, perfect. Robert, thank you for going through that. What I'd like to do now is as we met at the door, I'd like to go ahead and go to step number 2. And by the way, I want to share with you, everybody listening on this webinar, everything I'm saying here, I am totally transparent with our client. I tell my client that we have a 5-step listing appointment, and it will be a 5-step appointment, and I tell them in the beginning what those steps are. Because here's the thing. Clients are scared. They do not know. They don't understand what we know. They don't understand the listing process. So if I can remove that fear, it makes them so much more comfortable. It makes them so much more trusting of us. And it really helps out for them to see all of this in action and to see what I told them is going to happen. It helps them to actually have it happen. And when it happens the way I say it's going to happen, they're like, oh my gosh, this is, wow. Yeah, that just took away a lot of fear. That just took away a lot of my concern. And so I say, thank you so much, Robert. Let's go ahead and move to step number 2, and that is we're going to inspect your home. And they're like, okay, I thought I'd give you a tour. I'm like, a tour is just kind of looking at things. What we're going to do right over here is we are going to inspect your home with you. And so what we do is we go through and we inspect their home with them. Now, to do this, we absolutely and actually have to walk around the home with them. And what I do is I disconnect my iPad from my keyboard. And then what I'll do is I'll go around and I will start typing notes. So what we can do is as I get up and start walking around, you'll see I just saw somebody's like, oh, you got a template for that? Yep, we got a template for that too. And so we'll go through and I'll start typing in all of the home features here. Now, what I want to share with you is that you can document everything as you inspect the property in several different ways. And you might want to write these down. The first one is you can actually type on the iPad. Now, what I wanted you to see is, wow, that took a long time, right? So that took a long time for to sit there and type that. But so what I do is I would actually come up here up into this header, and I'd say, you know what? As we go through your house, I can tell you really love this house, and you're talking faster than I can type, so I'm going to record our conversation. So I'd actually come up here and select on that microphone, and what you'll see here is that now it is recording my voice as I'm speaking. So we'll walk around and I'll record like everything we talk about as we go through the home features section of our inspection. We go through, we're inspecting the home. Another easy, like this is such a fantastic way to do this. Another great way to document everything as you go through this appointment is the newer iPads have this microphone down here on the keyboard. And a lot of people probably don't know what that is if you have that. And so I'm gonna let you in on a little secret here. That is the annotator. And what it does is it allows me, as I select that, it allows me to speak, and it will annotate and type everything that I'm saying right here. So, for example, I can say, the kitchen has beautiful granite countertops. And you'll see it works there. And man, I nailed it. The kitchen has beautiful granite countertops. Is that not cool? I hope that right there is a secret that you didn't know, and it will absolutely change the way that you document everything here on your iPad. One thing that I'm really clear about is I want to make sure that I can document everything very easily so that I never forget it. So as I'm walking around the client's home, where I'm recording the audio, and by the way, I wanted to share this with you, is that as the audio is recording, wherever my cursor is when I am done recording, when I select done, it will drop that audio file right there wherever my cursor is. Is that not cool? It created an audio file right here in Evernote, right where I had my cursor. So then, as we're walking through the house, another thing, you guys already see it right here. It's like photos. Man, I see some people, it's like, how do you get your photos in there? Well, let me share with you how we do that. What we do, and I'll take a picture from where I am here in our Goodlife team offices in Austin, Texas. What happens, oops, turned it the wrong way, is right up here in the header, you see the camera. Remember, wherever that cursor is, it's going to drop whatever I am inputting. So with that camera, if I select the camera, you'll see, here's my view. I click on or tap on that camera in the right-hand side of your screen. And as I select it, you'll see the shutter closes. And it drops that. And then I'll just swing around here and take another picture. And what I'll do, people are like, well, how many pictures do you take during a listing appointment? I'm like, I could take 40, 50, something like that. And then down in the bottom right-hand corner, you see that checkbox. As I select that, what's going to happen is it's going to drop every single one of those photos that I just took right there into the note. Is that incredible? Let me hear you say, wow. Like that right there accomplishes so many things in one step. Number one, again, it wows the client because they see you documenting everything about their house. And they'll actually say, it's not uncommon for me to hear them say, wow, or that's so cool, or combined, wow, that's so cool. And I'll document all of these for that reason, is I'm really setting myself apart from everybody else. Number two is I will document that and all of this other information. You see as I scroll up where it says recommended repairs / updates. Well, I will document all of that, and let me uncheck these boxes so you can see what happens. Another reason that I'll take all of this information and document it with photos, audio files, and text is that I'm going to share this with the people who are going to be doing the repairs. So our contractors. I will share this with our contractors. So as the contractors get this, they see all the photos. Like if that fireplace glass had a crack in it, I will let them know, recommend a repair, replace the cracked glass on the fireplace. And they'll be able to see here, and I might even take a picture of the model number so that the repair guys will know exactly what it is that we're doing. So I'll scroll back up here. Additionally, we help our clients get their homes staged. Now, we don't pay for it, but we do have a stager. And I'll take all of these photos so the stager will know what they're working with before they show up to the house. And I'll tell you what this does, man. It reduces the amount of time it takes to get to market. Next, if you have a marketing department or a marketing assistant, this also helps them understand what they're working with. It helps them craft your marketing narrative around that house, of how you're going to expose that house to everybody else, so they get to see all of the features. They get to see everything, all the repairs that are going to be done. And lastly, I document everything so in-depth like this because, quite honestly, when we're selling so many homes, my memory fails me. So I can't tell you how many times in the past I have had to call my client. This is so embarrassing. But I've had to call my client and say, you know what? I forgot. Do you have stainless appliances or are they black? Do you have granite countertops or is that silestone? Well, I no longer have to do that because I've documented everything. And so I'd like to give a shout out to a few people who are having fun here with us, who are saying, "Wow!" Melinda and Frank, and Carol and Deborah and Jeff and Natalia and Debbie and everybody's like, "Wow, that is so cool." So anyway, that's how we're able to truly wow our client as we inspect the property and really take care of those who work for us, because remember, we're documenting everything, and then at the end of this webinar, I'll show you what we do in step number 5 after our clients sign, because like this listing agreement here, I'm going to delete that, and I'll show you how we put that in there. I'm also going to do that with a net sheet. I'll delete that, and I'm going to show you how we get that in there. So that is step number 2, and that is inspecting the property. Wow, that is so cool indeed, says Sandy. So as we're going through this, step number 3. Let's talk about step number 3. This is a big one for a lot of people. Not so much for us, because sometimes we'll even skip this, because sometimes the clients at this point, they already get who we are at the Goodlife team and what we do that's different. That's probably why they're meeting with us. But some people might not, and a lot of people need a listing presentation. So the app for that, we're going to call it our marketing plan. That's another tip let me give you. Most clients don't know what a listing presentation is. So what we call this is what it is. It's a marketing plan, and we use the app Keynote for this. Now, a lot of people are like, Keynote? What the heck is Keynote? I have Microsoft Word and PowerPoint and everything like that. What the heck is Keynote? Well, if you use Microsoft, let me tell you, what Keynote is Keynote is just like Microsoft PowerPoint. And so as you see, we have our presentation, and our marketing department created this for us. So we can come down here and customize just by typing in the client's street name and their name. By the way, when you do this, the client feels special, because it feels like, wow, you created this just for me. So after we inspect the property, which is step number 2, and the app we used there was Evernote, just want to let you guys remember that. Next is the marketing plan, and we use Keynote for this. Now, to do this, we sit back down at the dining room table, and as you'll remember, where am I sitting? I'm sitting next to the client. Remember, we're sitting next to them. So as I sit down, I'm sitting next to the client for step number 3, and that is the marketing plan. All right, so as we go through this, I'll sit next to him, and I'll press play here. And as it starts playing, what I do is, and I love doing this because it's a lot of fun, is what I'll do is I will start slowly where they don't really notice it, just so they can, so it's like, oh, you can't see that too well? Let me slowly slide this iPad closer to you. Now I'm doing this for several reasons, and I'll explain it as we go through the presentation. I will start tapping to advance the slide. Remember, this is all on my iPad. Okay, so I'm typing to advance the slide. And so as I tap to advance the slide, what happens is a couple of things. Number 1, I'm sliding that iPad closer to them, so they start taking control. As they see this, I'll actually stop tapping, and I'll say, oh, are you ready for the next slide? Well, go ahead and tap there. And if they don't actually, if they don't take over on their own, I'll let them know that it's okay. Like you have permission. Go ahead and tap there to take control. And so as they tap to take control of the presentation, what happens is a couple of things. Number 1, remember earlier in the webinar I talked about us being a team. We're partners with a seller. This creates even a closer bond because I'm essentially sharing my iPad with them. And so as they take control, that happens. And then number 2, what happens is that they begin convincing themselves that we are the right fit for them and that all of this is going to work. Jason Edwards, who runs our real estate brokerage for us, says a master salesperson never tells somebody anything that they can show them. We want our client to experience this. I don't want to tell them. I mean, if you just look at this and it says staging and photography before and after, do I really need to say, this is the house before and this is what it looked like after? Which one would you end up buying? It speaks for itself. So then what happens is they're like, okay, staging and photography, got it. I got to get that. We got to do that. So we don't actually have clients combat with us over staging. So we go through this. They start convincing themselves that this is what they need to do. And that is step number 3. That's the marketing plan. And as a reminder, we use Keynote for that. Now, I see some questions here. Some people are like, hey, what if I just bought an Android and I'm using that instead of an iPad? Hey, it's no problem. No problem at all. Because what happens is if you're using, instead of Keynote, what you would use is Microsoft PowerPoint, okay? And you can do all of this on a Microsoft or an Android device. Not a problem. All right, so let's move on. Step number 4 is the pricing conversation. Pricing conversation. Several apps we use for this. Number 1, go ahead and write this down. We use iBooks. And in iBooks, the reason we use iBooks is that I'll actually put all my entire CMA in there. Now, some people are like, hey, what is this touch CMA? We'll talk about that at the end here because I see some questions there. So, Michael, let's just make sure that we touch on touch CMA and talk about that as well. All right.
For sure.
And then also, I want to welcome, man, we've got a lot of people joining us right now. GoToWebinar had a lot of problems today. Not a problem. We are recording this, and we are going to send this out to everybody so you can watch this again. So Patty, don't be bummed. We will absolutely get you a copy of that, okay? All right, so iBooks. We'll get our CMA in there in a PDF format, so I'll just show you what one looks like. I'll open up iBooks, and there you go. Pops up, and I have my entire CMA in a PDF format that I can swipe through and talk to my client about. Now, Michael and I talked about this last webinar. Michael, you'll remember we talked about, you actually asked me the question, Gary, do you really talk about the CMA? Do you really use a CMA? Michael, what did I say to that?
I don't recall verbatim, but I think you kind of said by that point there isn't a lot of conversation because of the confidence that had been created prior to that point. Is that correct or not?
You nailed it, man, because as I'm using this iPad and as I'm going through the presentation and as I'm documenting everything, what that does is that builds so much trust with my client to where when we get to pricing, I'll say, okay, next step is the pricing conversation. And what they ask is, well, what do you think my house is worth? I say, well, based on everything that I've seen in the neighborhood and everything I've toured and my experience and everything that we just talked about, I think your home is worth X, and let's just say $500,000. If they thought it was worth more before I met with them, I just built so much trust that I likely don't even have to go into a conversation to prove why I think it's worth that price. So we normally get to skip that step and add another app in here, which is numbers. Because more important, I mean, like, what is more important than how much I think their home is worth? The most important thing is how much money am I going to take away when we sell this house? And the app we use for that is Numbers. Now, again, like I said, if you guys are using Android devices or whatever, this would be akin to Microsoft Excel. And so let me zoom in here, and this is where I would go through and talk about all of the fees. This is where I would talk about what we charge for our commission. This is where I would say, do you remember when I was documenting everything? This is the reason that it's so important to document everything, is that, remember, I said in our initial consultation, you thought your home was worth, or would, your payoff was $227, but you checked and it's actually $223. So what that allows me to do is come right back here into Numbers and update that. And as I update it, you'll see we have it calculated here in our net sheet that it automatically adjusts to the approximate balance that that client's going to get. Man, I want to tell you, you want to talk about, wow, that is so cool. I used to have to fill this in on paper, and I'd go through here and then hand calculate and get this approximate down there, and it's all handwritten. Man, it's so ugly. This is the the technology age, and what we're doing is we're using this technology to totally wow the client. But we're not done with this. It's like, oh wait, there's more. What we do is, remember, we need a copy of this in their folder. Well, in Numbers, when you come right up here to where the wrench is, and you select the wrench, and you select Share and Print, I'm going to open this in another app. Guess which app that is? I'm going to choose my app, and it's going to go right into Evernote. So it creates a new net sheet note here in Evernote, and I pop right up here to the header where the I, that's the information about the note. So it says note info. Well, right now it's in my to be filed notebook. Well, I'm going to go ahead and file that right into my seller, Robert Watson notebook, just by selecting that. And then check this out. This is, I actually show my client this. I don't normally say bam, but bam. There you go. It drops that net sheet right here into Robert Watson's Evernote notebook. Now that is so freaking cool. And I'll tell you, the clients are like, wow. I say, yeah. And I'll tell you, client, at the end of our entire meeting, after, by the way, and I will say this, after we sign our agreement, I'm going to share this notebook with you so you will have access to absolutely everything that we just talked about. All right, so that is step number 4. Step number 5 is forms. Let's talk about the agreement. So step number 5 is the agreement. And this is where I have, I've coached agents, I've taught our own agents, I go on listing appointments with them. This is where more people get nervous, and this is where they don't close. And I'm going to show you how you can close more listing agreements easily. And that is through using technology. And the apps we use for this are Zip Forms and DocuSign Inc. Now, I want to let you guys know, if you don't currently have access to Zip Forms, we'll talk about that in the Q&A session. So as I open up Zip Forms, what this does is this takes me to my Zip Forms form software right here. I'm going to select Robert Watson, and then I'm going to select the residential listing agreement, and I'm going to edit it. So as I come in here and edit it, normally the only thing I need to edit is the price, but as you'll see down here, we already talked about it, $500,000. I'm like, great. So I will save this, and then right up here, you'll see it says Review. Well, as I select Review, what you'll see in the top right-hand corner is it's going to say Open In. And as I select Open in the top right-hand corner, it's going to offer me all of the different apps that I can open this in. Well, I'm going to open this in DocuSign Inc. because this is where I'm going to have my client sign. And as I add the document, all I need to do is select Add a Signer, and I'm going to type in my client's name, Robert Watson, and then his email address. I just made that up. Don't email robert@goodlifeteam.com because there is no robert@goodlifeteam.com. All right, so as we go through this, I'm going to have an in-person signer because my client is sitting with me, so I'll select in-person signer, and then we're going to add this. And then as we add this, what's going to happen is it is going to add Robert Watson to the signing ability down here. I'm going to select Next, and as I select Next, what it does is it prepares that document. And I pulled up the wrong document. I'm so sorry about that, guys. So let me cancel that. That was my error, not the technology. Grab Robert Watson's listing agreement again. We'll pull up the exclusive right to sell. We'll view it. I'm going to select Open In and DocuSign Inc. again. This grabs it. We're going to add this exclusive right to sell in there. Remember, this is actually really good that I messed up because this gives you another viewing of how to do this. All right, so as I select in-person signer, I will add that. select next. There we go. And this is a great place for me to review that listing agreement with the client. So instead of saying, so are you ready to sign the listing agreement, or gosh, do you want to review? What I do is I just assume that they're going to sign, and I go right into it and I say, okay, now it's time to talk about the agreement. Let's review this. And then to add the client's initials, what I'll do is after we review page 1, I'll tap the initials and I'll drop it, and I'll say, okay, right there, as soon as we finish reviewing everything, that's where you'll drop your initials. This is where we talk about the listing, and we charge 7% for our listings here, and we scroll on down and select that and just drop it right there again wherever the client is going to need to initial. And so I'll go through this entire agreement, and I explain every paragraph here because I want them to be clear about what it is that they're signing. I drop the initials as we go through page by page, and then at the bottom I grab their signature and I'll tap and drop it right there. Now I missed one initial down here at the bottom page. Do that. And as I'm complete with that, I'll come up to the top right and I will select Host Signing. And now what DocuSign Inc. does is it prepares that document for the client to sign. And now what's really great is that it says, Robert Watson, please press begin signing when you're ready. So I hand the iPad to him. He says, begin signing. Remember, I'm sitting next to the client, so it's not hard for me to just slide it right to him. So we'll go through this, and we'll scroll down to find the first one, and I say, oh, go ahead and tap on where it says initial. He says, great. I said, select, draw your initials. He says, okay. I say, now, Robert, this is the important part, black, blue, or red. And he says, what are you talking about? I said, that's going to be the color of the ink when you draw your initials and select adopt. And bam, it drops it right there on the iPad. So then what we'll do is we'll select next, and he goes through and he taps on initial every single place that he needs to initial. And this takes literally no time at all. It's a lot faster than giving somebody a pen to draw their initials and flipping those pages back and forth. And, oh, we missed one, and oh, I'm so sorry, you missed signing. And this is where they would draw their signature. Remember, black, blue, or red. We adopt it, and then it'll let me know if we missed any initials, which I did. I'll come up to the top right, select Confirm Signing, and this wraps it up, bundles it up, and says, Gary, you're done. Give the iPad back to Gary. Says, great. Now, it says, I love this, it says, document completed. What would you like to do with this? Well, I could email this to the client and be just common, like that's what everybody does, or I could actually come down here and select Open In. And as I select Open In, it gives me all of these different apps that I can open this document in. And I'm going to open this in. Everybody say it with me. Evernote, because this is their file, this is their folder, this is where I'm going to store it. So remember, I'll come up to the top where the header is, and I'm going to move this into Seller/Robert Watson's notebook right there. I'll select Close, and I remember, I love doing this. I love coming in here and saying, bam, that is the listing agreement right here in the client's notebook. This is the net sheet that we reviewed. This is the listing appointment documentation where we took all of the photos and audio files and everything. This is the initial consultation information. Everything in here we just documented during the listing appointment. And since we've signed it, what I would then do is come up here to where the box and arrow is, and I'd say, client, I'm going to share this with you, and I'm also going to share this with our stager, my marketing department, and our contractors, because I want everybody to have access to everything that we talked about today, including you. So I share it with them, and at that point, we have completed what we call the Goodlife 5-step, 5-star listing appointment. And I got to tell you guys, our agents are walking out of their listing appointments with more agreements signed than they used to because they're using this technology. It wows the client, and we just produced an experience for them that no other agent has. All right, Michael, I know we have a ton of questions here, and I know that you've been reviewing them. What I'd like to do is I want to hand the reins over to you so you can take control and talk to me. What are the most common questions that folks have about what we just talked about?
Glad to do that, Gary, as always. And you're right, there are a lot of questions today. And thank you so much for those of you who joined late. GoToWebinar had some sort of a power outage, unfortunately, but we've added a ton of people here in the last 20 minutes alone, which is really flattering. We're honored that you're here, especially to take time coming in this late into the webinar. Please ask your questions, and we'll be glad to answer them. The main question I'm seeing, Gary, is, how can I become a paperless agent expert like you, Gary? What's your short answer to that?
You know what? I have to apologize because I forgot to talk about that, because one thing that we have done is we have created a special offer and training around this, and I meant to talk about this in the beginning of the webinar, but thank you for reminding me, Michael, and thank you for everybody who asked about that. We do have training that we offer Goodlife agents, and the great news is now you don't have to be a Goodlife agent in Austin to get the same education and training that they do. All you have to do is go to the paperlessagent.com/combo, which you see right down here at the bottom, and we'll go ahead and type that into the chat section as well. But what it is we have created online training which allows you to do everything I just did with buyers. So we actually have iPad for buyers. So if you want to learn how to work with buyers in the field and have them sign more offers in the field when you take them on tours, that's the training you would take. We're also offering iPad for sellers. So everything I did today actually just scratches the surface of how to work with sellers. Well, you'll get that. Additionally, we have several bonuses today, Michael. One of them is I saw some questions from folks who don't own iPads yet or are not masters of using their iPads. So we also are including, which normally costs $97, this is free. We're going to include as a bonus the I Just Bought My iPad, Now What training videos. Additionally, Michael, are you there? I want you to talk about Project 153 and Goodlife membership in the next 2 minutes because you know so much about it. I want you to tell them what they're getting included in this too.
You want me to make it exactly 2 minutes?
1 minute 53 seconds.
I'm wasting time. I would be glad to, Gary. Project 153 is a video training series put together by Jason Edwards. As Gary mentioned earlier, Jason is the gentleman who runs the Goodlife brokerage in Austin. I've had the pleasure of meeting Jason a number of times, and he is a master trainer, which actually is not just some made-up term. It's actually a thing. And basically what it means is that Jason has been teaching real estate at the absolute pinnacle of the industry for, I'm actually not sure how many years it's been, but it's been many years. I know he's been in the game for over 20 years. I've seen him teach. I personally reviewed all these videos before the Project 153 course was completed, and I had a certain level of expectation regarding what these videos could possibly contain, and I have to be honest with you and tell you that that Jason delivered so much more value than I expected that I was really surprised. And it really went to show me, even though I've been in the business personally for 23 years and been very successful as an agent, I learned so much just from watching those videos that I had never heard before that I was truly impressed with what Jason delivered. So he covers 11 large topics in this video series, and the reason we call it Project 153 is because the videos total 153 minutes. So that gives you some idea as to what's included there. Regarding the Goodlife membership, that's a recurring thing, obviously, as the name membership implies. And you get a whole bunch of stuff, including coffee chats. We do a couple different coffee chats every month. In fact, we have one, I believe it's tomorrow. And then we have one on August 1st with a woman who is actually the co-author of Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So that gives you some clue as to the caliber of the people that we have on the show. We've had a number of really high-profile people. They always bring value. We also have a quarterly e-zine. We have a Goodlifer Facebook group. We have something called the Coffee Cake, which is sort of an actionable product type thing. We also offer discounts on products and a few other things that we don't have listed there. So We think there's a lot of value in the combination of the Project 153 and Goodlife for Membership. And Gary, I'm sorry because I know I took longer than 2 minutes.
That's just fine because you explain that so much better than I do. And as he was talking about Project 153, that is something we're going to be selling for $200. Jason's going to be selling his training for $200. He's going to give that to you. You're going to get 60 days worth of access to that starting at the end of July. So you're going to get that for free. Additionally, we're giving away, which is normally $84, we're going to give you a year subscription to Goodlife for Membership. You're going to get iPad for real estate. That is iPad for buyers and sellers. And you're getting I Just Bought My iPad, Now What?, which really takes you through how do we do this and how do we master using the iPad. Now, if you add that all up, I mean, obviously it says $728. Well, we're giving that away to you today for $397. Now, I'm going to type into the chat section. You don't even have to type this in. What I did is I just put it in the chat section. Just go over to the chat section on your GoToWebinar control panel and click on thepaperlessagent.com/combo, and you can get that special right now. So, and by the way, if you do that today, as Michael said, we have a coffee chat tomorrow, and our host is Jason Edwards. So if you want to ask questions and learn from the master, go to thepaperlessagent.com/combo. You will be a member today, like instantly. You can start your training instantly, and you'll get your Goodlife for Membership instantly, and you'll get an invitation to that private webinar that we're hosting tomorrow. Okay, so I just kind of went through a lot of stuff. Michael, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask several questions that just produced.
Okay.
Number one is, I see a ton. Kathy asks, are all the templates included? So all of the templates she is talking about are these templates right here in Evernote. So I'll show you. We have created templates, and we have a notebook called Templates right here. And as I open that, you'll see you're going to get, so answer yes, Kathy. Thank you for asking. You guys will get all of these templates that we've created. We have the buyer property tour template, the listing appointment template, the client consultation template, the MLS seller template, and the contract to close checklist. So you're going to get all of those templates when you go to thepaperlessagent.com/combo and join us today on your path to paperless, I like to say. So yes, you get that. Next, you also get this forever. And people are saying, well, where is it? What does it look like? You get access to this forever because it's online. Somebody asked, do I get DVDs? And that's my fault. I led you on by showing you DVDs. That's just a visual representation. What you actually get is when you become a member of this, you're going to get, let me pull up my site right here. You'll become a Goodlifer, so you remember the coffee chat. This is where you can access that coffee chat that we're talking about for tomorrow, and you get all of the old coffee chats that we've had. I mean, we have had, we have had, I think, more top-selling authors that we've interviewed on this than I've ever seen. This is incredible. You also get iPad for Real Estate 3, and I'll show you what it looks like because it's all right here online. I'll just scroll down and you get all this training, and you also get these bonuses. So this is where you'll get your Evernote templates. Somebody also said, hey, I want that net sheet. We're going to give you that net sheet too. So you're getting that as well. And I've got to put that on that sheet that shows you everything. But you're going to get that net sheet. You're going to get those templates. You also get discounts to DocuSign and Cardivi. So you get all of that. But more importantly, let's talk about the training. You get to go through this, and it takes you through step by step in a very organized fashion. Like step one, organization of your buyer's information. It shows you exactly how to organize everything in Evernote. Step two, it helps you prepare for your buyer tour. And you go through and you like what you can do is you come through and you'll click on one of these. I'll just click on a link and show you guys. This is what the videos look like right here. And so you'll go through and you can pause it, you can rewind, you can fast forward. You can stop and then go back tomorrow because somebody just said, how long do I have access for this? You get this forever. And so you get this online forever. And And by the way, it's all online. You don't need DVDs. You get this online forever, and you get that special price of $397. Now, Michael, I also saw somebody just said, "Hey, um, what about iOS 7?" Which I'm trying to find that question. Did you want to talk about iOS 7 and what's going to happen?
Absolutely. In fact, I was waiting for you to stop to bring that point up if you didn't. In fact, one thing that's important to point out about this training that I think is really valuable is the fact that it's in a constant dynamic state, meaning we're always updating it, we're always anticipating and reacting to changes, and we have a large overhaul for this product planned in response to Apple's releasing iOS 7, which is supposed to be happening, quote, sometime in the fall. So Gary and I,
quote.
So Gary and I are going to be completely revamping all of this, and it's important for you to know that, because for those of you who are more savvy, you're aware of the fact that iOS 7 is coming, and you're probably wondering, well, gee, should I hold off and buy this product after iOS 7 comes out? Our response to that would be no. One, because we're going to be completely updating the product, and you could be using it now in its current state. And secondly, we have a price increase that's going to be coming hand in hand with that total revamping of the product, because we're going to be investing hundreds of hours to do that. And so there's reason to act now rather than wait. But we do want you to know that we are keenly aware of the fact that it's coming. In fact, we had a webinar on iOS 7. In fact, we did two a couple of weeks ago, like 2 and 3 weeks ago, respectively, I believe it was. So know that that's coming, know that we're anticipating it, and know that there's good incentive perhaps to move sooner rather than later if you are interested in this product.
Absolutely. And I share this photo. Michael and I chuckle about this because I just got back from vacation in Colorado, and I would go hiking, and guess what I would take with me? I would take my iPad. I'm also a photographer. I love photography, and I took this picture of me to show everybody that, yes, I was up in the mountains. This was about a 6-hour hike that I did along this ridgeline, and I take my iPad because sometimes I've got to take care of situations while I'm on vacation. Well, I have my iPad. I'm in the mountains. I have great reception. I'm able to respond to offers and counteroffers while I'm up there in the mountains if I need to. That is an extreme example of how paperless can absolutely transform your life, because if I weren't able to do this, my client could suffer. And another thing, my family could suffer because, gosh, Christina and I, we have 2 kids, and they both play soccer, and I love watching them play soccer. But what's important to me is also I need to be paperless, and mobile is really the more critical thing. Is I need to be mobile so I can get my life back and control my life and take care of myself, my family, and watch those kids play soccer. That is important to me. So. Somebody just said, what's that link again? It's right here in the middle of the screen. It is thepaperlessagent.com/combo, and it's one-time fee of $397. One time. You can actually break it up into 2 payments if you want to. There's an option for that at this website. So one payment of $397. It's not an ongoing payment. You get it forever. All right, Michael, next questions.
Man, again, we have so many that it's hard to choose which direction to go, but I'm just going to start grabbing them literally randomly, and let's see how fast we can answer these.
All right.
One, today you covered sellers, and you also made explicit reference to buyers when you were talking about what was included in the product, but could you quickly talk about what's in the buyer section and how it compares to what you went over today with respect to sellers?
Absolutely. In fact, I think the best way to do this is to just go in here. So this is actually, if you want to start your training today and to be able to work with clients in the field this weekend or next week, you could do that. So in the working with buyers, we take you through every single step. We take you through organization of your buyer information. That's setting up your notebooks and everything like that. Number 2, helping you prepare for your buyer tour, because a critical thing we find is preparation for buyer and listing meetings is critical. And then we take you, remember today we did the 5-step listing appointment. Well, we take you through our 5-step buyer tour. Next, kind of talk a little bit about extra 5-star touches. How do you really take your client from a 4-star to a 5-star experience? And we even teach how to negotiate the contract. So that is everything included in that buyer section. All right, Michael, what else you got?
Could you repeat the 5 steps on the seller side quickly again?
Absolutely, happy to do it. 5 steps on the listing, the 5-step listing appointment. Number 1 is understanding your client's concerns. You can also just write down listening to your client and asking questions. Step number 2 is inspecting the property. Step number 3 is review the marketing plan. Step number 4 is the pricing conversation. And step number 5 is signing the agreements.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah.
Next question. Which iPad do you recommend?
Oh, this is a huge question we always get. I'll tell you this real quick, and then I'm actually going to type this in the chat section as Michael gets the next question queued up. This is kind of a loaded question, but I'll tell you what I have is I have the iPad 3. Well, they actually call it, they don't even call it the iPad 3. They call it the new iPad. I have 32 gigabyte with Wi-Fi and 4G. And so the reason I said that so slowly is I was typing that into the chat section over there. So go to the chat section and you can see that. Also in the chat section is that easy hyperlink that I typed. So you don't even have to type in that hyperlink to start your training today. You can just go over there and make it easy on yourself.
And related to that question, Gary, a couple of people have asked, I have the iPad 1. Will this stuff work on it?
Here's what I can tell you is the iPad 1 will work with almost everything we train. The big difference right now is iPad 1 does not have 3G and iPad 1 does not have a camera. So what I would highly recommend is if you have an iPad 1, do this. Go to thepaperlessagent.com/combo. Put $397 on your credit card, and we're going to give you 30-day money-back guarantee. So go through the training, see if it works for you, and if you're like, you know what, this is not going to work for me, I don't want to do it, let us know, we'll give you your money back. Or you'll go through it and say, wow, I like this, it actually convinced me to upgrade my iPad. So that's what I would say is don't go spend $600 or $700 to get a brand new iPad yet. Take the training for a whole lot less money and make sure that this is what you want to do.
Totally
and
agree.
Michael, I'm going to ask you this question. What about the iPad Mini?
That question always comes up, and the answer to that really is purely personal preference because, like, I'm actually pretty old, and my eyesight is fading. In fact, right now I'm using reading glasses to read my 27-inch Thunderbolt monitor that's 6 inches in front of my face. And I have a hard time reading the Mini. I have gone to the Apple Store with the specific intent of buying it literally about 5 times. I've not purchased it. In fact, I've used Gary's wife's, Christina's Mini, several times, and I love the idea of it, but I just have a hard time reading it. My concern as a user, as a real estate professional, in working with clients is, might some of them have a hard time reading it, and might that defeat the purpose just a little bit, especially if you think about how you'd be using it out in the field, which in my opinion often would consist of you holding the Mini and you tilting it toward the client to show them something. I know I do that a lot with my regular iPad when I'm out with clients, and I think it would be just a little bit of a challenge with the Mini. Otherwise, there's absolutely no issue with using it, so if that's not a factor for you, if that's not a problem for you, absolutely use the Mini. And I do love the idea of the Mini, and I know a lot of people who are just head over heels in love with that product. So yeah, you can use the Mini.
All right, awesome. This is. I want to answer this. Chris asks. He says, I signed up Well done. Step number one is signing up. Well done. So glad you're joining us on your paperless agent path, but did not receive an email with the password login info. What I can tell you, Chris, is check your spam filter first, it normally just pops up in your spam filter. So check that. You should be set. But congratulations.
Here's a question from Henry. Henry asks about which keyboard do you use with your iPad? Gary, let me answer it for you because I've heard you answer this question so many times. It's made by a company called Zagg, which is spelled Z-A-G-G. I believe you can find that on Zagg.com, or you can certainly just Google it or find it on Amazon. I think you paid, what, 99 bucks for it? And I know I've heard this from other people as well who've done a lot of testing on this, like you have, Gary, that it seems to be kind of the gold standard in terms of the quality of the keyboard. And in my opinion, I know you agree with this, Gary, the keyboard is the key. Having a quality keyboard, if you're going to get an external keyboard, you might as well get a good one, and Zagg makes an excellent one.
Yeah, they do. And watch for specials on Zagg.com because they just had like a 50% off on a keyboard. So watch for specials. Yeah, it was awesome. It was it was 50 bucks for a new case and keyboard.
Wow. And I know you
question,
already touched.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Gary. I know you already touched on this earlier, but I really think it's worth repeating because it's such a common question, and I know so many people have this concern. Can you use Android devices, and what if I have a PC/Windows machine?
You know, that is the question I was about to ask you, but I'll answer that. Yes. If you have a tablet, yeah, if you're a Windows guy or gal and you know, you're a PC person, not a problem. Here's what you can do. The training will work because what it is about is it's about the process, right? So I'll pull up my iPad here. It is about the system. It's not about how the iPad works. We just use the iPad because we think it's easier for us. That's just a personal preference. But if you have PC, Android combination, not a problem. The only 3 apps that will be different is Keynote. You'll download PowerPoint for that. Numbers, you'll download Microsoft Excel for that. And iBooks, you'll just use any PDF, the native PDF browser that comes on your Android device. So not a problem. And the training, yes, the paperless agent training will absolutely work for you. It's just it'll just look a little bit different. And I can tell you for certainty it works because my mother-in-law has an Android. And so I took her Android and I started going through it and playing with it. And the only thing is that like stuff like Evernote, it just looks a little different. Things like email and PDFs, it just looks a little bit different. But that's it. Process is the same.
Excellent. Cardivi, what is it? What does it do? Can you please explain Cardivi?
Happy to. Cardivi is an online transaction management platform that allows you to collaborate with everybody involved in the transaction, from buyers to sellers to all agents to transaction managers to title companies to inspectors, appraisers. It allows you to collaborate through the transaction on everything that needs to happen. You get to grant or take away access to all of the legal documents that you upload there. So I love that feature. It gets me out of what Jack calls email hell. I mean, if you have like a billion emails like I do, this removes every transactional email because it allows you to collaborate with everybody in Cardivi. And Cardivi was just acquired by DocuSign, and so what happens is now DocuSign and Cardivi are getting all integrated. So you can actually have people electronically sign and store all of your documents in Cardivi.
Excellent.
Right.
And while we're on that topic, Gary, this is one we always get. You made reference to a number of apps as you went through this, and for those of you who've heard our webinars on the other side of the transaction, we also make reference to a number of apps there. What are the total cost, or what's the approximate total cost of all the apps that people need to acquire to make this system work the way that we're advising them to make it work?
That is a great question. So the ones that cost money: Keynote. Keynote is $9.99. Numbers is $9.99. And then you can either use PDF Expert or iAnnotate PDF, $9.99. That's how much those apps cost. So you're looking at roughly $30 there. Now, subscription, Evernote does have a premium subscription, and that is $45 a year, which I highly recommend. It's not critical, but I highly recommend it. DocuSign Inc. I think is $14 a month, and I got to tell you, that is the best $14 or $15 a month I've ever spent, because I get more people signing documents right here than anywhere else. And then Cardivi, for a limited time, when you sign up for Paperless Agent by going to the paperlessagent.com/combo, you're going to get 50% off Cardivi for the first 6 months of your subscription. So that'll save you $30 right there. So that is normally $10 a month. It's going to be $5 a month for those of you who sign up, because we're going to get you a promo code for that.
Excellent. So the bottom line of all that is it's very inexpensive. One thing I think a lot of people fear is that there's all these additional peripheral costs involved with doing this. And in my opinion, of course this is all personal opinion, but in my opinion, the totality of what Gary just outlined is pretty minimal, especially when you're talking about those core apps costing a total of $30, and then the recurring monthly charges being, whatever that total, $19 or $20. It's a small number. Next couple of questions, Gary, I'll answer this. What's the deal with templates? I'm sort of paraphrasing a series of questions, but the deal with templates, again, is that first of all, we're giving you the ones that we've created already, the ones that are resident within Evernote, so you can just add them and start using them instantly. Gary showed you that on the download page for the product. Key things to note there. One is we're always going to be adding to and improving those templates as well, just like the rest of the product. Secondly is, what's the general idea behind the template? The general idea behind the template is that you create a template for every significant workflow that you have in your real estate business. As Gary showed you earlier, the ones we have already are contract to close, a buyer tour, preparing a listing for the MLS, buyer consultation, and I don't recall what the fifth one was, but the idea is you document the workflow inside of an Evernote note, and you improve it, you tweak it, you improve it over time, so that after you've used that template, 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 times, you've wired it and made it perfect. And again, what we're giving you to start with, we think is pretty solid to get you rolling in the right direction, but you can edit them on your own. Then as you need them, you simply go into the appropriate notebook within your Evernote, which would be called templates. You click on the template you want, like let's say you were going out on a buyer tour. You click on the buyer tour template, and one of the menu choices is that you can copy that template, and Gary's navigating to it right now. You can copy that template into the notebook of the applicable client that you want to use the template for. So it just makes this process so easy, and it's much easier than it probably sounds as I'm describing it, but is navigate to the appropriate notebook called templates, find the template you want to use, copy it into the notebook of the client you want to use it for, and then just start using it. So it just makes all these different workflows and processes that much easier, because you're not using any paper, and you're creating that note, which is accessible from iPad, from desktop, iPad or other tablet, from desktop, from smartphone, and you've got access to all that information. It's interesting. I was chatting this morning on Facebook. I started a Facebook group called Raise the Bar in Real Estate, and I've met a lot of really fantastic people, and a person that I met her in real life in Utah, and she's from Houston, a woman named Victoria Mullenix, I believe is her name. I asked a question this morning about, is your desk space dirty or neat? And she said, there's no transaction files on my desk. They're all up in the cloud. And I applauded her for that. I applauded her for that, because this is exactly what we're talking about here, is that, going back to what I was just talking about specifically, all this stuff is in the cloud. You're not printing anything. And it just makes the workflow so much easier, so much more accessible, so much more transparent, so much more readily shareable with your client, and on and on. But templates, I don't want to I don't want to sound like I'm exaggerating this, but templates are really a powerful part of the concept here of leveraging digital technologies to turbocharge your business. It just becomes more efficient and more effective.
Absolutely.
So as you can tell, I'm excited about templates.
I love templates. And to answer somebody else's question, can we edit the templates once we get them? Absolutely. And in the training, we even teach you how to create your own. Another question,
and you
somebody
should.
just said.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, you should. Somebody else just said, hey, they hopped on a little bit late, and they said, I heard you say something about a 30-day money-back guarantee. What is that? When you go to the paperlessagent.com/combo, this is the order form. So as you scroll down here, what you'll see is you have a 30-day money-back guarantee. It's right here on our order form. So, if for any reason you're like, you know what, I'm not going to go paperless. I thought I wanted to, or I don't, or I'm not going to buy an iPad. For whatever reason, it doesn't really matter. Within the first 30 days, you get a look-see, and we'll give you your money back if you don't like it. So that's how you're able to do that. A couple of people have said, hey, how long does it take for me to get my membership? Mary Lou has joined us. She's going paperless. She asked that question. Gay asked that question, and Chris asked that question as well. What I'm finding is that it is taking about 10 to 15 minutes for that email to come through. So you will get that email so you can start your training today. So as I said earlier, in the right-hand corner of your screen is the GoToWebinar control panel. In the chat section, we actually typed in the hyperlink for you. It is the paperlessagent.com/combo. All you have to do is type that in or click on that link. You're going to get iPad for real estate for buyers. You're going to get iPad for sellers. You're also going to get I just bought my iPad, now what? You're going to get 60 days access to Jason Edwards' Project 153, which is in-depth training on how to produce more. That's normally $200. You're going to get that. You're going to get a 1-year membership to the Goodlifer team group, and then normally that's $728. We're going to run a special here and give you all these bonuses. It's $397 at the paperlessagent.com/combo. Doug just says, this is great. Can't wait to get started. Wes said, just got my password. Boom. All right, Wes, can't wait to have you online, man. This is the most fun I have is really helping everybody else learn what we learned. And by the way, Michael, it took us 3 years of in-the-field training and hardship and research and development to figure out the system of how to be paperless with our buyers and sellers. And so what I can say is that don't go spend 3 years doing what we did. Just go spend $397 and get all of the knowledge that we acquired through doing that. And you guys, you can be paperless by next week. That's the amazing thing. You guys can actually get on this bandwagon and start your paperless agent training today. You can have access to your Goodlifer membership because we have a private webinar tomorrow with Jason Edwards. And you can get all of that instantly. And it may take 10 minutes to get your email, but you guys will absolutely get that. So, Wes, thanks for joining us and sharing that he just got his password. And Doug, he said this is great. Can't wait to get started. So, there you go. Oh, Michael, question for you. Lavina says, so can we replace Dropbox with Evernote? Michael, why don't you take that one, buddy?
Gary, I'm sorry, there was some buzzing on your microphone. Did you say, can I replace Dropbox with Evernote?
Yes. Can you replace Dropbox with Evernote?
That's actually kind of a difficult question to answer, and let me answer it differently than the question was asked. The question that we get all the time, I'm serious. In fact, we started doing some Evernote webinars, and the question always comes up in those webinars as well, is people having this perception that Dropbox and Evernote are comparable products. And in my opinion, they are in the same broad product category because they're both cloud-based storage sort of technology tools. However, That's where the similarities end. And Dropbox, in my mind, well, let me be clear about this. We use and love Dropbox. This is not negative at all. It's just a statement of fact as far as I'm concerned. Dropbox is great if you just want to store stuff and allow people to access it. And I know Dropbox does more than that, but that's in general what I think most people use it for. Evernote is so much more multifaceted and so much more sophisticated and has so many more tricks, options, menu items. I mean, it's a night and day difference for me. And I use Evernote every day, all day long. Right now, I'm staring at my computer screen. I'm looking at 3 different Evernote notes that I have open that are helping.
Of course, have that menu open.
I'm sorry, Gary, what?
Oh, keep going. Let me change mics.
Okay. I have 3 different Evernote notes open right now that I'm, helping to organize and run this webinar. I haven't used Dropbox probably in 3 months for anything, and so I have found Evernote to be an absolutely invaluable tool. I do use a Dropbox, but typically when somebody else wants me to use it because they use it, and I've also used it a lot for moving large files around, video files, for example. But in terms of day-to-day usage, I use Evernote constantly, and I use Dropbox rarely. In fact, I mentioned earlier that I co-authored a book called The Swanepoel Technology Report. I specifically wrote one of the chapters in that book about Evernote, and in that chapter, there's a graphic that compares Evernote to Dropbox. So this is something that's near and dear to me, that question, and I just don't think they're the same thing, and they both have different uses. So I don't know if that answered your question or not, but that's my take on the subject. Okay, so let's see what else we have here. Here's a question. Can you run your entire business off of the iPad?
Michael, if you can hear me, I'll take that one.
Yes, Gary, you sound much better. You were really distorting there for a minute. Okay,
so here's an answer. We have an agent whose laptop died, and they were about to go spend about $2,000 on a new MacBook Pro. And instead what they did is they said, you know what, after taking this training, I'm going to give it a shot and see if I can do everything on my iPad. And this is what they, by the way, I want everybody to know, what you're getting at the paperlessagent.com/combo is everything that our own Goodlife agents get. Like when we hire new agents, they go through this exact same training. And that's what they did. They went through that exact same training, and guess what? It absolutely worked for them. They are able to do everything off of their iPad. So they don't have to have their laptop for anything anymore, because our MLS is actually 100% mobile now. So, that's my long answer to that question. Short answer is yes.
Well, and also let's comment on the obvious trend, Gary, which is if we were to answer that question a year ago, or certainly 2 years ago, your answer would have been different. And the trend that I think we're seeing clearly is, the iPad keeps getting more sophisticated. The apps that are being built for the iPad keep getting more sophisticated and more nuanced and more advanced. And, I think that I believe that it'll be fairly common in the not-too-distant future where lots of people just ditch their laptops altogether. And, of course, we've all seen the stats that show that mobile Internet usage is on track to surpass desktop Internet usage in 2014. That's next year. So these trends are overwhelming and, in my opinion, obvious. Hey, we can't forget, Gary, we promised someone earlier we were going to talk about Touch CMA. Would you please talk about that?
I will. But before I hit Touch CMA, I'll get back to my iPad. I do want to tell everybody, Michael, you know my mother, right?
Yeah, I do. She's a wonderful woman.
Yeah, she is. So my mom, I won't disclose how old she is, over 70, and I bought her an iPad because she likes to travel. Like this picture in Colorado, she loves to go to Colorado. Well, as she was getting older, she realized, I don't like carrying my laptop anymore. So I got an iPad. One thing I didn't mention, she's also a realtor. And so I gave her access to the Paperless Agent training. She went through it. The woman doesn't use her laptop anymore, and she was an all PC person. All she uses is her iPad, and she still sells real estate. And for me, that's where I just get giddy because I'm like, it works. People, if my mom can do it, yes. All right, Touch CMA. Let me open that. Touch CMA. As I open this, Mary Lou asked a question, and I typed her an answer, but she says, do you offer one-on-one training? Are there physical classes? Mary Lou, you can email me. I sent you my email. We do that for a certain number of people. We will host seminars for that. So you can email me. You know, if you're interested in getting a big group together, you can email me at gary@goodlifeteam.com. And Gary with 2 R's. All right, so next. Let's see. Touch CMA. So what Touch CMA is an awesome online CMA technology. It's not available in every market just because not every association is allowing them to have their sold data. But in Austin, we allow it. So what Touch CMA does is it allows you to go in live and in person, host or create an entire CMA with your client. You can review absolutely every comp. You can look at the photos. You can create net sheets right in there. So that's what Touch CMA does for you right there. All right, Michael, what else you got?
Dotloop versus DocuSign. What's the deal?
You want to take that?
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't think I know this as well as you. So pick me up when I fall down on this one, please. But the basic processes work the same, and the system that we've designed works around either. So we have people, and in fact, it's interesting because we're starting to do work with associations. And in fact, we're working with something called SUR MLS, which is the Southern Illinois Regional MLS, and they use Dotloop. And we've designed training that is specifically tailored for them and their members, the members of their association. And like I just said, they use Dotloop, and we've designed a process that includes that and works basically the same as it does with DocuSign. So the functionality should work the same and does work the same. It's just, it's a little bit different because the product's different. I don't think that answer was sufficient, Gary, so could you jump in?
Actually, I think it was sufficient because, if you're using Dotloop, because if you're a Keller Williams and you get it for free, actually it's not free. I mean, they kind of force you to pay for it, but you're paying for it. What you would do, you just replace Zip Forms, DocuSign Inc., and Cardabee that's in our training. You'd replace those 3 apps and just use Dotloop. So, and again, it's totally up to you. It's personal preference. I like the simplicity of Zip Forms and DocuSign because I like people who really focus on doing that one thing. Like, what are you very, very best at? Well, Zip Forms, they create the form software. DocuSign Inc., all they do is create electronic signature platforms. Cardabee, all they do is online transaction coordination and collaboration. So that's kind of that's my take on it.
Thank you, Gary.
You bet.
Let me answer this question, if you wouldn't mind, Gary. The question is, how do we create folders on Evernote? I use it already, but not obviously as intensively as you taught. But I have tried to see how to create a folder, but do not know how to. Well, first of all, let me just indicate that they're not called folders on Evernote, and I'm telling you that only because it's important to understand the terminology, because that could be perhaps one of the reasons why you're not figuring this out. But if you go into Evernote and you go up to and I'm not looking at Evernote as I'm telling you this is from memory, so I hope I'm right. If you go up to the main navigation menu bar at the top of the page, one of the first choices you have on that menu line is called File. And if you click on File, there's a drop-down menu that will appear, and one of those choices is called New Notebook. So if you do that, there's your option for creating a notebook. You can also create them several other ways. If you go into your primary notebook view, which Gary is now navigating toward, Another thing that you can do, there's a button there that allows you to create, in fact, Gary's showing you right now, if you click on that plus sign, it'll allow you to create, right there, he's showing you, new notebook. And you just type in the name of the notebook, and there you go. I also want to mention that there's two different views here. There's the view that Gary's showing you right now, which looks like a physical notebook. I'm just laughing at what Gary's typing. That looks like a physical notebook. There's another view that looks like a rectangle. It doesn't look like a notebook. So that's how you create notebooks inside of Evernote. Once you've figured out, you'll realize how simple it is. It's just understanding the terminology and understanding where to go to do what it is you want to do. I also want to point out, as I mentioned earlier, that we're now doing Evernote training. We had our first Evernote training webinar last Friday, and we were blown away. We had over 1,000 people show up for this thing, which was just awesome. We have a replay of that webinar, which is going to be coming out. Actually, we haven't decided what day it's going to be, but I believe it's going to be early next week. And we're going to be doing Evernote webinars every month going forward. So please check your email inboxes. If you've subscribed to anything that we do, you'll be getting notification for that. But this is how passionate we are about Evernote, that we're also doing this free Evernote training because we just want to help people embrace all of this, because we feel it's that important for people to really, to become well-versed in this digital technology and this digital business climate in which we all live now. So we're just trying to help people move in that direction. So these Evernote training webinars are just one more thing that we're trying to do to help with that. So I hope that answered your question.
Awesome. All right. Let's see. Man, still lots of questions here. Question, how can a team work with this? That is a great question, because we have a team here in Austin of about 25, and what we do is we have a transaction manager, we have a listing manager, and we have a marketing department, and they're all communicating within Evernote, and we teach you how to share and collaborate with others on your team in our training. And so, Sonny, that was a great question. Several other people asked that. So yes, you can absolutely do that. And what we ask is that each team member, so if you have 10, 20, 50 people, each team member go to the paperlessagent.com/combo, and in fact, you can email that to whomever you want, because we're going to offer this for just about another week. This combo is available to you for about another week for $397. You get iPad for buyers, you get iPad for sellers, you get I just bought my iPad, now what? You're going to get Project 153 for 60 days. You're going to get 60 days of access to watch that. You're going to get a full year's membership of the Goodlifer, and normally that's $728. You get it for $397, and you can start your training today. You can have your entire team start their training today. Just go to the chat section, copy where it says the paperlessagent.com/combo, copy that hyperlink and send it around to your team. We will extend that offer to everybody on your team, or if you have friends in real estate in other cities and states, etc. And to answer a great question, Mary Lou just asked, is $397 yearly? No. Actually, that is a one-time fee, and you get that forever. Gay just said, got my login. I'm excited. Well, Gay, I'm pumped for you, too. I can't wait for you to start being paperless, too. Let's see.
Yeah, could I add just one comment, Gary, on a question you already answered?
Please do.
Relating to, how does this work with teams? How important we view Evernote in this is that this is what we use to run our team at Goodlife Team and at Coffee with Christina. We run everything out of Evernote, and it's just amazing, the sharing capabilities, the permissions management, just the sending of stuff, the sharing of stuff. It's just amazing technology. And, again, whether you buy this product from us or not, we would encourage you to dive deep into Evernote and use it for all it's worth, because it's just an amazing tool.
All right. Well, Mary Lou was pleased. She said, great. Awesome, Mary Lou. Can't wait to see you online and join us in your path to paperless. Somebody else just asked a question. This is a great question, which doesn't come off all that often. Do you have support? And to what I can tell you is yes, we have email and we have voice support. We have two people who help us out with that. And we have Shannon Musgrove, who's awesome, and she created an Evernote called Shannon is Awesome. Yeah, she's giving me the hands up. And then we also have a person named Macy, who also helps us out with support. So not only do you get all of this in here, you also get support. And you get all of that for a 30-day money-back guarantee, and it's just $397. So you're all set there. Carolyn says, our team uses Box to communicate. Is Evernote better? Oh, my goodness. Michael, do you want to talk about that?
Actually, Gary, I can't answer that because I'm not familiar with Box.
Box is exactly like Dropbox.
Oh, then yeah, not even close. I mean, Evernote just has so much more. You know, I've been racking my brain trying to come up with a suitable, metaphor or analogy for this, and I just can't seem to do it. But they're just not the same thing at all. Evernote is just so much more robust in terms of, the system. It's just night and day if it's anything like Dropbox. So that's a long answer to what I should say is, yeah, I think Evernote's better.
I completely agree. All right. Debbie says, can I use Paperless Agent on my iPhone? So here, let me explain something that maybe people are, it's kind of confusing sometimes. The difference between the iPad Mini, and the iPhone. The iPhone, with the exception of its phone capabilities, is the exact same machine as the iPad Mini and the iPad. So if you took away the ability to call people with your iPhone, it does the exact same thing that your iPad and your iPad Mini does, just on a much smaller screen, much smaller scale. So Debbie, can you use it with your iPhone? Yes. Do I recommend it? No, because you're going to make your clients blind looking at your iPhone. But can you do it? Absolutely. Now I'll tell you this too. I use Evernote on my iPhone every single day. It's like almost constant. It's always open because I'm taking notes. I take pictures and drop it in there. And here's the beautiful thing, is that whatever I do on my iPhone syncs to my iPad. Whatever I do on my iPad syncs to my iPhone. And whatever I do on both syncs to my desktop version of it, because it is all cloud storage. It's all cloud-based. All this stuff is not stored on your iPad. It's stored on their secure servers. So that's what I'm talking about. Oh, Ronald just said support is awesome. So Ronald has already had to communicate with Shannon, and she got right back with him, so he's very satisfied. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm smiling at Shannon right now, and she's laughing at me. Okay. Well, all right. What else you got, Michael?
A question about Keynote. If a Keynote is on my laptop, can I move it to the iPad? I'll answer that, Gary. Absolutely, you can. First of all, you can create Keynotes, and again, as a reminder of what Gary said earlier in this webinar, Keynote is exactly analogous to Microsoft's PowerPoint. They function very similarly. In fact, you can open PowerPoint files inside Keynote almost seamlessly. I don't want to exaggerate that. It's not always perfect, but it's usually without any hitch at all. So you can get Keynote for your iPad specifically, and also you can create Keynotes anywhere. I mean, either on the iPad or on your MacBook Pro or your MacBook Air or whatever. Moving those things from place to place is also very easy. You can literally just email it to yourself, or you can drag and drop if you have your iPad connected to your computer, which is something that I often do. And there's probably other techniques that I'm not even aware of, but that's how I do it. Have you ever used Gary, I'm going to probably screw this up. It's not called AirPlay. It's the air sharing. It has a name. I can't think of the name.
No, I don't. Just because I'm a stickler to make sure that I get all the data in there. So the two ways that I do that, and I'm showing everybody our listing presentation. This entire thing was created on our marketing department's Mac, on a regular computer. And then what we do is that we email this out to our team members so they all have access. And we're constantly updating this. We also have a buyer presentation that we give our agents to. And so we just email it out to them, and then they just upload it. So that's me, man. It's so fast and so easy. So I just wanted to share that with you guys that was actually created on another computer. Okay. Oh, this is a great question. Vanita says, I use iPad but have desktop PC. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you can sync your iPad with any computer. It doesn't really matter. Because what you do is you're syncing it with what's called iTunes. And you can download iTunes from Apple on any computer, and you can sync it with any computer. And so, yes, you can absolutely do that. So no problem there, Benita. You can do that with no problems.
Yeah, and Carolyn asked a question. She says, can we get training on Evernote to communicate with our team? Carolyn, I'll repeat what I said a moment ago, which is we're doing these monthly trainings on Evernote. Please stop by in our next one. But just real quickly, just a couple tips I can give you right here and now is that you can manage permissions on notebooks. So you can go into a notebook once you've created it and share it with whomever you want. So you could create, for instance, you could take the template notebook. Let's assume you have a real estate team. You'd clearly want to share that with all your team members so everybody can be using the same workflow templates to run your business consistently. So there's a method of communication real simply. You can also share individual notes via email, via a copied URL. Evernote actually creates what is in essence a little website for notes if you wanted to, or for notebooks. So those are just a couple different ways that you can communicate with team members using Evernote. But again, I would implore you to start attending our Evernote training and to watch our replays, and you can further your knowledge of that amazing tool.
Awesome. Let me see if we have any others that we can share. Lavina says, so Keynote will not sync automatically like Evernote. No, it will not, because you're not storing that in the cloud. You could. You could just store everything in iCloud, and it will sync that way if you wanted to.
How much stuff do you, Gary, I'm just curious, we've never talked about this. How much are you using iCloud?
So that's a great question. I only use iCloud to back up my iPad. And everybody's like, what is iCloud? So I'll open this up. iCloud allows you to sync and back up anything that you need on your iPad. So you'll see storage and backup. I actually back up my entire iPad into iCloud, and you see it right here, iCloud backup. Other than that, I don't really use it to access and move data around. I just use it as a backup because, here's the thing. It has been known to happen. I'm not saying that this has happened to me, but it has been known to happen when an iPad might be dropped and broken. It might be, I don't know, maybe driven over by a car. I've heard of that happening. Not that my daughter did that. I'm just saying it's possible. Or it could be stolen, or it could be dropped in a pool. Well, if that happens, man, I got to get my data back quickly, especially if I'm like on my way to an appointment or something. I've actually done this. I've gone by Apple on my way to an appointment, bought a new iPad, and because everything was stored in iCloud, I was able to download everything back onto my iPad right there in the Apple Store because they have fast Wi-Fi there. Dumped it right here, went to my appointment. It's like I never even missed a beat. So I know, isn't that great?
It is. And we should point out, because, a lot of people have legitimate questions about security. We always seem to get those questions. And, the thing that I always say in this context is obviously make sure you use some sort of a, the security lock, that you have the 4-digit numeric thing that you unlock your iPad with. That's something that I always do. And just know that the information is stored in the cloud for the most part, and it's just not as vulnerable as many might think. Why do you have no concerns about that, Gary, or do you have no concerns?
I really don't have any concerns about it because another thing in here, which I shared or showed you, is, let's see, go back here. You guys see Find My iPad? I have it turned on. If my iPad gets stolen, number one, I have it password protected. So number one, I can go on to Find My iPad and wipe the entire iPad clean. So it'll take all the data off of there. Number two, with Find My iPad, I can actually track it, and you can call the cops, and they'll go get your iPad back for you. So I mean, it's really incredible. So that's why I have Find My iPad on, and I'm able to do that. So there you go. All right.
I did not know. I didn't know that you could wipe your iPad remotely using that app.
Yeah. My daughter actually showed that to me.
That's very cool.
I'm going to answer one more question, and then we've got to head out. I hope everybody has enjoyed this today. Derek says, I have an Android. Do all these features work? Absolutely, Derek. Just all you got to do is head on over to the paperlessagent.com/combo, and you're going to get all of that today. You can start your training immediately. You just get it started today. So would love to have you guys join us and get that done. So with that, Michael, I would like to say thank you for your time today. As always, we have a blast doing this together, and you are just a wealth of knowledge, and I appreciate you for joining us today. And can't wait to see you in person next time. And thank you, everybody who joined us today. Any last words, my friend Michael?
No, just we really appreciate the fact that everybody attends. We have a passion for educating people. We have a passion for helping agents be better at their jobs and ultimately to make more money. We really do believe that the future of the industry is very different than the past, and that the people who embrace, technology in general and leverage it, not just in the ways that we're teaching, because, we're certainly not teaching on everything. There's plenty of other tools and techniques out there, but we think you should have a thirst for knowledge because we think it's crucial going forward. And Gary, thank you, because it's always such a pleasure for me to be on here with you. We do have a great time together, and we always learn something. It's funny, I have such a thirst for education myself, and every single time I'm on a webinar, I learn at least 2 important new things, and oftentimes more than that. So I just consider myself very fortunate to be involved in this whole thing.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, Michael. It's an honor. One last question. Bob just said I'm a bit nervous about using it. I'm not familiar with it, and that is exactly why we have support, and we also have I just bought my iPad, now what? So literally, you're going to get walked through step by step exactly what to do to get your iPad set up and how to work with buyers and sellers in the field. Like I said, we're going to leave this up for you guys so you can go on over. Just go to the paperlessagent.com/combo, and you'll get that special when you sign up today. Thank you so much. This is Gary Wise with the Goodlife team, Michael McClure with Coffee with Christina and the Goodlife team, signing off. Take care, guys, and we'll see you online.